like to welcome you to our session today. Live today on YouTube for the first time. So really looking forward to hearing from you on YouTube today. And what we'll also be doing is, for the people that are watching live, we will be recording this, so it'll also be available afterwards on YouTube. What I'll also be doing is I'll be keeping an eye on what is coming in on the chats on YouTube, and then we'll also bring that back to you as potential questions. So I think, without further ado, this is Sam Rathling, amazing at LinkedIn, has helped me with a lot of stuff, and also going to help us today with job seekers and what you need to know on LinkedIn. So without further ado, Sam, over to you.
Thanks very much, Extine. If you could, whilst I'm just doing a little mini intro, just allow me to share my screen, that would be amazing. And then I can get my slides ready to go. We can't seem to be able to do that at the moment. So welcome, everyone. It's great to have you all here. For those of you that are watching live, or for those of you that are watching the recording, as Extine said, today is all about how to leverage LinkedIn for job seeking and for securing your next role. So my first thing to say, though, to all of you is, obviously, my thoughts and prayers go out to all of you, your families, etc. I have spent time in the Ukraine. I think it's an amazing place, and I really, my heart goes out to all of you. So whatever I can do to help today, I'm going to give you as much value as I can in the time we have together. So I'll just share my screen. There we go. I can do that. Perfect. Thanks, Extine. And let's go. So we're going to focus on LinkedIn specifically, but some of the tips I give you here can be applied on other social media platforms, just to say that. What you're going to need to get the best from my session is a mobile phone, close by, a smartphone ideally. You're going to need access to LinkedIn. So if you don't have a LinkedIn profile at the moment, you won't be able to do that. I would set one up after today. If you do have a LinkedIn profile, then make sure that you have it to hand, either on the desktop version or on the mobile version. And of course, a pen and paper, because I'm going to give you lots and lots of information. I'm going to talk a lot slower speed than I normally speak today. So I'll try and go as slow as I can so that you can capture everything you need to learn. So a quick intro to me. My name is Sam Rathling. I am a LinkedIn expert, globally recognized LinkedIn expert. I have been an international speaker for 12 years. And I'm the Chief Visionary Officer of a company called Pipeline 44. But before I was a LinkedIn expert, I actually spent time in the recruitment industry. So when I moved to the Netherlands in 2001, I fell into the recruitment space, and I spent 14 years of my career actually working in recruitment. And I have hired over 2,500 people. So I've seen a few CVs in my time cross my desk, and I have actively used LinkedIn to find great talent as well, and great candidates. So hopefully I can share both my LinkedIn knowledge, but also my knowledge having spent time in the recruitment sector. So if we're not already connected on LinkedIn, that's the first job number one. You may have questions after today, so please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. All you need to do is grab your mobile phone, point the camera at the screen, at that QR code in the middle of the screen, and you'll be able to either follow me or you'll be able to connect with me on LinkedIn. The other option is just to search for my name. There are only 2 Sam Rathlings on LinkedIn the last time I checked, and only one of them is a girl. So hopefully you'll be able to find me easily enough on LinkedIn. If you like what you hear today and you want more information, I do have a podcast called Social Selling with Sam, and I also have a book called Linked Inbound as well. So if you want to get more information, they would be a good 2 places to start. So a few facts for you in relation to job seeking and LinkedIn, and hiring specifically through LinkedIn. There are over 97,000 companies on LinkedIn who are using the platform for actual recruitment. So regardless of what industry you're in, whether you're looking for a role in education, whether you're looking for a role in corporate world, there are lots and lots of companies out there that are using LinkedIn to find great talent. Here are some stats for you in terms of LinkedIn. 87% of recruiters use LinkedIn regularly. So that could be recruiters inside companies or recruitment consultants. There are, luckily, so there's some good stats on here. 121 million people have scored an interview through LinkedIn, and there are over 15 million current job openings on the LinkedIn platform. So before we get into the tactical side of things and the information I'm going to share, one of my tips for you is to see your job seeking search as a full-time job until you get your employment. If you treat this like a full-time job, then you'll get there faster. If you only dedicate a small amount of time to your job search, you're going to find it a struggle. So I would really focus in on your full-time job being your search for a job. Now, another thing to note is that the average recruiter spends a very short amount of time looking at a LinkedIn profile or a CV when it crosses their desk. In fact, the average is 5 to 7 seconds. So you have to make a great impression when someone either visits your LinkedIn profile or they look at your CV. And I know this from my own experience when I had hundreds and hundreds of CVs crossing my desk when I was in recruitment. You have a very limited amount of time to impress. So at the end, after I've gone through the LinkedIn information, I'm going to share some CV tips for you as well to help you from that perspective too. But 5 to 7 seconds to make a great impression is not long. So that's what we're going to focus on in today's session around your profile, really standing out from the crowd and helping you to secure that position. So there are a few fundamental things to understand before we get into what do I actually do to find myself a job on LinkedIn. And the first thing is to understand this equation. So in this equation, the V stands for visibility. You can't expect to get a job on LinkedIn or through LinkedIn if you're not visible, if you don't have a profile, or if your profile is really incomplete, or you're not leveraging LinkedIn to be actively connecting with people that you want to work with and for. So visibility is very key. The second part of this equation, and when you need to add to visibility, is something called credibility. So this is where you're building your reputation and really kind of focusing in on how you are the right person for a company to employ. So visibility and credibility will lead you to those opportunities that are very abundant on LinkedIn when you know how to harness its power. So visibility plus credibility equals opportunity. Now, I'm going to give you 3 keys to success when it comes to job seeking on the LinkedIn platform. I'm going to share with you what they are, and then I'm going to talk about each one individually. So the 3 steps to LinkedIn job seeker success. Step number 1 is to have an effective LinkedIn profile. There are 20 different elements on your LinkedIn profile. I'm going to share with you what they are, and I'm going to talk to you about the most important ones for you to complete when it comes to your LinkedIn job search. Step number 2 is to build your network. So this is about connecting with people who may be in a position to hire you, or maybe in a position to refer you and introduce you into companies that you might want to be hired by. So this is about finding people that might be either hiring themselves or recruiters that might be recruiting for the industry that you are in. And finally, the last step is to post and engage. So we'll talk about what those 3 things mean and how you can do them effectively during this session. So the profile is all about credibility. If you're going to put an effective profile together, you really need to focus in on how you can help these organizations, what you bring to the table. So as I said, there are 20 elements of your LinkedIn profile. The next slide is one of those slides that I would recommend you take a photograph of because it is going to share with you all of the 20 different elements to think about. And then as you leave this session, I would work through them like a little checklist to make sure that each one of these is completed. So I'm going to put the 20 things on screen and then we'll talk about some of them in more detail. So these are all the 20 different elements of your LinkedIn profile. Some of them are newer features you might not even be aware of, like the profile video, for example. There are lots and lots of things that you can put on your LinkedIn profile to help you build that credibility. So I'm going to leave it on screen for about 30 seconds while you either take notes down or you take a screenshot so that you can really focus in on what you need to do. So things like your work experience, keywords to help you get found. A really big area that recruiters use on LinkedIn is skills, and having skills on your profile that match what recruiters are looking for is a good idea. So we're going to go through each one of them individually. but just so that you can take a screenshot, I'm leaving it up there for a few seconds. So we're going to go next into what makes an effective job seeker profile. So for me, there are a few things before we go into the details of each one. Just 1 second. There we go. So the first thing is your profile needs to really speak to either an in-house recruiter, so someone who works inside a company who is responsible for finding candidates, or a hiring manager who works inside an organization that is responsible for hiring for their own team, or a recruitment company that is hiring people on behalf of their clients. So it really does need to speak to those people. You also need to be thinking about how can you really communicate what you can personally bring to that particular company or to that recruiter's client. So not what you've done, but what you've actually achieved. So things that are going to be helpful are going to be things that are tangible, things that you can say, I actively made a difference in this organization. The profile needs to build your credibility. There's that word again. Showcase you, your skills, your personality, and your achievements. And it can also get you found in search results when recruiters are going to the LinkedIn platform to look for specific skills that you might have. So a couple of things on your LinkedIn profile. First off, you want to make sure you have a really professional headshot. You know, the phones these days are great. They can take really solid headshot pictures. So get somebody to take a recent picture of you and upload that to your LinkedIn profile. Choose a strong image that represents your industry or the type of role that you want behind you. And I would recommend that you have obviously your name in your profile. But one of the things I want to draw your attention to is that you can now also put a frame around your photograph that says that you are open to work. So I'm going to show you in a second how to do that. But look at the difference between the two photographs on the right-hand side. One of them, they're both open to work, but one is clearly a social shot with somebody's arm around them, which has clearly been taken in a social setting. The other one is a straight on headshot and is clearly a bit more of a professional photograph. So think about what your photograph says of you, because you've only got 5 to 7 seconds to impress. Therefore, make sure that your headshot is really doing its job for you. In order for you to get that open to work frame around your headshot, you can come in here and click view or edit my profile photo. Then once you're inside there, you'll see that you've got the option to add frames, and then you'll see the green one there, which is open to work. Now, the other one you probably want to make sure you're aware of is the purple one, which is where somebody actually is hiring through LinkedIn. So if someone says I'm hiring, it means they have a job published currently on the LinkedIn platform. You can head over to their profile and you can see the roles that they are currently recruiting for. So make sure that you have that one open if you are currently open to work, because it will indicate to recruiters that you are looking for a new opportunity. A couple of other features to be aware of on your LinkedIn profile. So the first thing is I would be aware of a new feature called a profile video. So this is where you can record a 30-second video introduction to introduce yourself, who you are, maybe talk about what kind of role you're looking for and what experience and skills you can bring to an organization. You can only upload the video from your mobile phone. So you need to make sure that you record your 30-second video and then upload it to your LinkedIn profile. Now, I have met a number of Ukrainian people over the last couple of weeks as we've been doing the Coaches for Ukraine project. And in my experience, some of the names are a little bit hard to pronounce. So you have the option to actually record a 10-second audio clip on how to pronounce your name correctly. So I would also recommend recording the 10-second audio clip there to pronounce your name correctly. Those are two features on your LinkedIn profile that most job seekers won't be aware of and can really set you apart when it comes to your LinkedIn profile. There's a few other sections on the profile that you may not be aware of. One of them is called the featured section of your profile. If you currently don't have one of these, then you can simply go to the top of your profile, click on add a new profile section, and you'll find the option there to add what's called a featured section. Now, mine has some articles that I've written, but I would highly recommend once you've got your CV in place that you put your CV available on your featured section so that a recruiter or somebody hiring can download the CV from your LinkedIn profile or access it in a different way. So you can either upload a PDF or a PowerPoint document, or you could put a link in your featured section to take somebody to your personal website or something like that. But definitely make sure your CV, your full CV, is accessible inside your LinkedIn profile. Now, you don't need to read what's on screen here. This is all about what's called the About section. So this is where you have 2,600 characters to be able to showcase who you are, what you're about, what skills and experience you bring, and almost really kind of sell yourself to somebody looking at your profile. So I would definitely pull in here your biggest achievements, things that other people have said about you, any of your career highlights, things like that, that you would want to feature in your About section. Bring in some personality, tell your story. This bit shouldn't read like a CV, that's further down the page, but it should really bring in a lot of your personality and what you're about. Underneath the About section, you have what's called the Work Experience section. So you can have your job title at your previous companies, and you can have up to 1,300 characters underneath the Work Experience section. And each and every role that you have ever had in your work and your career can be listed underneath the Work Experience section. If you took a career break for any particular reason, if you had a break for maternity leave or paternity leave, or maybe you just took a year out because of your mental health or something like that, you can put on your CV, on your LinkedIn experience now that you had a career break for a period of time as well. So there should be no gaps. You should put your work experience, and any career gaps that you had are perfectly explainable and can be included in your work experience section. Again, not just the job title, use the space that LinkedIn gives you to showcase the role that you did, what you achieved, and what you were about. A big area of the LinkedIn profile that gets overlooked by a lot of job seekers is the skills area. Now, there are 38,000 skills in a database on LinkedIn that can be selected from. So this is where you're updating your LinkedIn profile to have a list of the different skills that you bring to the table. So there is a section on LinkedIn in your profile. Again, if you don't see it at the moment, it's because you haven't got any there. Go to the Add Profile section and click on Skills, and you'll be able to select from a drop-down list. You can just type in customer service, you can type in logistics, you can type in anything at all that you have skills in, whether it be soft skills or hard skills, and you can actually put those into your LinkedIn profile. I remember when I was a recruiter, I used to use this search quite heavily when I was looking for candidates with specific skill sets. So recruiters will look for people with skills on their CV, and you can also get endorsed for those skills by people that you've worked with before. So if you say that you're good at customer service, for example, and you have 20 other people that have worked with you previously that say, yes, this person is good at this skill, then it's important that you have those skills and that you get endorsed for them as well. Another way to build your credibility is to actually have people recommending you on LinkedIn. So this is slightly different to the skills and endorsements. This is where another person that knows you, that likes you, that trusts you, that maybe you've worked with before, or maybe one of your existing clients or somebody that you've worked with in the past, previous bosses, previous colleagues from your previous roles, get people to recommend you and recommend you as a person for your character, but also if you've done business with somebody, that they recommend you on their LinkedIn profile. You can ask for recommendations and you can give recommendations. So a good way to ask for recommendations would be to, as I've said, go to your ex-bosses, ex-colleagues, people that know you well. What you don't want to do is ask people for recommendations who you have no idea who they are and they don't know who you are. So go to people that you know well and try and get 4 or 5 decent recommendations on your LinkedIn profile so that if a recruiter is looking at you, they can see what other people have said about you. The next thing is to really think about, before you kind of go into everything, is to really kind of identify the roles that you want. So think about the job titles that you are interested in, and think about the kind of the ideal situation. So rather than thinking, oh, I just wish I could get any job, think about the ideal situation. And think about the target companies, the target industries, things like that that you are aiming for. So I like an acronym. So I'm going to give you an acronym to think about the specific roles and job titles, etc., that you are looking for. So this is what I call the ideal company and role. So if you write down IDEAL on a piece of paper, I'm going to give you what each of those letters stands for. So the I stands for the industries. So think about what industry experience have you had in the past, and think about what industries you would like to get into for your next role. Think about which ones you don't want as well. There might be certain industries you're like, oh, I've never worked in this industry for this reason. Now, LinkedIn does have a list of quite a few different industries. So if you're stuck and you can't think of industries, then just head over to your LinkedIn profile, go to edit the top section, and you'll see a massive list of all the different industries that LinkedIn has. So think about what industries or business types you are keen to work in. Then once you've done that, think about the description or the demographic for those companies. So what kind of size company do you want to work for? Do you want to work for a family business? Do you want to work for a small business? Do you want to work for a giant multinational company? What kind of description can you put to the industry sector that you're working with? How many employees do you ideally want them to have? Do you want them to have a big team? Do you want them to, how much revenue do you want the company to be doing? So think about the description of the companies. Is it a fast-paced scaling business that's maybe got investor backing, or is it a traditional, set in their ways, been around for 100 years type company? Just think about the different types of companies that you could apply to. The E is the experience. So this is where you think about the different job titles that you could actually do. Now, bear in mind that job titles in the Ukraine may be completely different job titles to those in Western Europe, for example. So roles in the Netherlands, roles in the UK, roles in other parts of Europe, there are all sorts of different job titles out there. So do your research. Go to job sites like Indeed or Monster or other job sites that are in your local country, and go and search up jobs that have the keywords in them that you want to do. So if you're interested in marketing, for example, or you're interested in warehouse and logistics, go search the job sites in the country where you want to find a job, and go look at all the different job titles that are used to describe those types of positions. Because you can bring those, write them all down, and then we can use them on LinkedIn to find jobs that might suit that particular job title. Next is the attributes. So this is kind of the company's mission, their values, what they're about, their culture. So what kind of company do you want to work for? Describe the culture and the environment. Is it someone that really focuses a lot on the well-being of their employees? Is it someone that has a very sustainability focused culture? Like, there's lots of different things that companies are out there. And the attributes, think about how the company aligns with your own values as well. And finally, where do you want them to be based? So what's the location of the companies that you're applying for? Are you willing to travel for your position? Do you want it to be within a 10-mile radius of where you're now living? Where would you like these companies to be? So I'm going to go over to LinkedIn just now to show you, now that you've got that picture in your head of exactly what kind of company and what kind of role that you want, then now you can start to use LinkedIn to go and find that particular thing. So I'm going to just go over to share my screen live on LinkedIn. Let me just get to the right page before I do that. And then I will share my screen. So now we're over live on LinkedIn. I'm just going to make it a bit bigger so that you can all see it, hopefully. So on LinkedIn, you have this search bar up here, and you can type in a search for a particular role. So if I wanted to find, if I was interested in being a warehouse supervisor, was interested in logistics, for example, I'm going to just use that as an initial search term. So I can put the job title up here that I'm interested in, and underneath you can look for jobs and click on the jobs button. And then what will happen is you can set alerts to be told every time there's a new position. So at the moment, this is defaulting to the United Kingdom because that's where I'm based. But if I were to change this to the Netherlands, For example, I can then run a search and I can see that there are 472 results for warehouse supervisor coming up. I can now set an alert, so I can choose if I want to be notified by LinkedIn that there are new positions available. And you can see across the top here, there are a number of filters that allow me to see when was the job posted. So this at the moment is set to any time, but if I wanted to see jobs that were posted just in the last 7 days, you can see there are only 141 that have recently been posted. Now, your experience level will determine which kind of jobs you're interested in. So if I wanted to go for entry level, mid to senior level, I can show those results. There are now 103 coming up. And if I wanted specifically to actually go, I want to work for company X, I can go and actually look for jobs in a particular company. So I can see here you've got full-time roles, part-time roles, or contract roles. And I can also choose if I want, now obviously a warehouse supervisor is likely to be on site, but if you were interested in having a role which is remote and work from home, or a hybrid where you're working from home some of the time, you've got the option to choose in there. So this allows me to then work through, and I can see all of the different positions that are available for that particular job type. You have the option then on the right hand side to click the apply button. Obviously, I'm not going to hit apply because I'm not currently looking for that kind of role, but I can save the job here and I can see who also has posted the job. So I can see here that she's a recruiter. I have the option to go visit her profile. I would also recommend connecting with the person that has posted the job. So I'll click on this one here. Doesn't always show you because sometimes it's come from a job board. Let's have a look at another one. See, some of them have come from a job board, but if it does say the person that actually posted it, I would recommend you also connect with those people. You can learn about the company. So I can come down here, I can see information about the company, but obviously this one here is an ops supervisor with Amazon. So I can click on the Amazon company page and I can come over here and I can start to learn a bit about the company. Now, most of the company pages on LinkedIn will have one of these pages here called Life. And that's a page all about what it's like to work at this particular organization. So there'll be information there, there'll be employee content, there's student programs, what it's like to work at Amazon, etc. So they talk about their mission and their values and things like that. So when you go to interview with that company, if you know what their core values are, and it says here how they interview and things like that. So there's a lot of things you can learn about a company if you were going to consider applying to one of their positions. So that's how you would run a search, is go up to the search bar, choose the job title or titles that you're interested in, and go from there. If you were looking for a specific company to work for, so I'm just going to go for an obvious one. I'm going to click on Google, for example. I can then look specifically and I can go, I just want to see jobs at Google. So if you have a particular company in mind, you can then go and use LinkedIn to find jobs that that particular company is hiring at the moment. So I'm going to go back now to the presentation. Just one moment. There we go. So here are some top tips from me in terms of your job search. I would highly recommend keeping a track of all of your applications, whether you've applied to them through LinkedIn, whether you've applied to them through a job site, whether somebody has recommended you for a position, but I would keep a spreadsheet of every single application that's out there. The reason being is that when somebody does call you and says, I saw your CV, I'm interested in interviewing you for this position, what you don't want to be thinking is, who on earth is this? What company are you calling from? I used to hate it when I picked up the phone to someone and said, oh, I'm interested in interviewing you for this role. And they go, what company are you calling from again? Like, you want to make sure that you're on top of all of the applications that you have put out there, know exactly where they're at. And as I said, it's a full-time job, looking for a full-time job. And one of the reasons is because the tracking side of things can get quite heavy, but the more that you track it, the more that you can see what's happening. You might have to go through 100 applications to get yourself your perfect job. You might need to go through 500, but keep a track of all of them. As I've already mentioned, follow the company page of the companies that you apply to. So go to LinkedIn, find the company, follow the company page, look at as much information as possible, look at what content that company has been posting. And if you can find them, connect with the hiring manager or the recruiter. I would recommend going through the company's people and finding the person that was responsible for that department and connecting them with them on LinkedIn. Trust me, it will impress. It will help you stand out. So I'm currently hiring for my company at the moment. And bear in mind, I'm a LinkedIn expert. You'd think that most people that would apply to my business might connect with me on LinkedIn. But in the last job application process we had for our last hire, we had only one person out of all of the applications who chose to find me on LinkedIn and send me a personal message to say that they were really excited about applying for my role, told me all the reasons why they were applying for it. And of course, I escalated that person and put them straight to my hiring team to say, we need to interview this person, because of the way that they had proactively contacted me on LinkedIn. And I looked at their profile and I literally said, we need to interview this person. So connect with the person that is recruiting, the person that is hiring. Always personalize your invitation when you go to connect with somebody on LinkedIn. I recommend doing that for anyone, whether you're job seeking or not. Always look at the person's profile and personalize the connection request. Mention that you've applied for the role, mention that you're excited about the opportunity to work with them, maybe ask some questions, things like that, but always personalize any messages that you send. And I would look back over the last 3 months of company posts. So go to the company page, look back over the last few posts that they've done, see what you can glean and understand so that you can go to the interview fully prepared to ask great questions. We already talked about this, but the life page, if they have one, will give you a lot of information about their values, their mission, the language that they use. So if you're applying to a role with that company, use the same language on your CV and on your cover letter so that they can see that you align with that company's values. And the final one is to be responsive to messages and application responses. Even if someone says thanks, but no thanks, and it's a negative response, don't ignore the response. Thank the person for their time. Thank them for considering you to the role. It might be that in a couple of months from now, that same position becomes available again. Maybe the person they hired doesn't work out, or maybe the person decides to take another role and they were offered 3 jobs at the same time. So, which is very common in the current marketplace. So be responsive to all messages and all application responses, even if they are negative. So just be polite and say thank you. And again, keep a track of it in your spreadsheet so that you know which ones you've been taken forward to an interview, which ones are a negative. So we talked about the importance of an effective profile. The next step number 2, is to build your network. So this is about putting the right people inside your LinkedIn network so that you can increase the chance of you getting found and increase the chance of getting the position that you want. So there are 2 different ways to build your network on LinkedIn. The first is to build your network with the people that you already know. So you probably have a network of people that are on LinkedIn, but maybe you're not connected to them. So go back over all of your previous positions, connect with people that you've previously worked with, connect with any clients and customers that you may have dealt with in the past, and add people into your network that you maybe are meeting at the moment whilst you're reestablishing yourself and getting yourself networked in a new community. Every person that you meet, add them onto LinkedIn. The next, obviously, is people that you don't know. So this is where you're going to build your network to increase the chance of you finding and securing a new position. So people that you don't know might be the hiring managers. It might be the recruitment consultants that specialize in your field of expertise. So I'm going to give you some suggestions as to people that I would connect with if I was looking for a new position. So the first would be what I call industry influencers. So these are people that have quite a high, they're quite well known in the industry. So I've just done a podcast this morning with a senior leader in the UK for one of the biggest technology companies in the world. So I would consider him an industry influencer. So connect with people that are seen to be quite industry leading, thought leaders, those kinds of people. Then think about your area of expertise. So if you're specialized in, I don't know, marketing, or you are somebody that's in science or pharmaceutical, look at the leaders in your area of expertise and connect with local people that are also in that industry. anyone that motivates you and inspires you. So maybe you're reading books at the moment or anything like that. Connect with those people that are helping you along your journey. Well-networked people. So I have over 25,000 first degree connections. When you add somebody with a big network into your network, you benefit from all of their connections. So I would now be first degree connections with you if we've connected on LinkedIn today. And then all of my network is now your second degree network. You can search LinkedIn, you can search my connections. There might be people in my network that could be perfect for you. So there's a few different people that I would also connect with inside companies. So first is the in-house recruiters. That is a job title that you will find some people have on their LinkedIn profile. So some companies hire agencies to hire their candidates, and some people use in-house teams of recruiters to actually find great candidates. So if you see that a company that you want to work for has an in-house team of recruiters, connect with those people on LinkedIn. There will usually be recruitment companies that specialize in your field of expertise. So go to the ones that are like more specialist rather than generalist. So if you're interested in logistics, or you're interested in pharmaceutical or marketing or financial services, whatever it is that you're interested in, there will be recruitment companies who specialize in that particular industry. So again, connect with the consultants that are hiring for jobs in your sector. I would be brave and also connect with the CEOs and the leaders of the companies you're applying to. And of course, we've already mentioned the people that you already know. I mean, ask for help. People are always willing to help. And the key to success when you're inviting people to connect with you, especially those that you don't know, is to personalize your invitation. So look at their profile, pick some things out that you can see from their profile. And, when you invite them to connect, mention anything at all that's going to personalize that invitation to increase the chance that they are going to say yes and accept you into their network. So I said that there were 3 things. We've done effective profile, we've looked at building network, and the final thing we're going to look at is posting and engaging. Now, we don't have a lot of time. I could literally talk for 8 hours on the subject of posting and engagement. So to save time and to give you as much help as I can give you, I'm going to give you some tips today on posting and engagement, but I'm also going to give you something that you can take away as well. We're going to put a link into the comments on the YouTube live stream and get that out to you, as well as into the Facebook group. So why would you even bother posting content on LinkedIn? You're probably already posting content on other platforms like Instagram, TikTok. You might be doing some posting on Facebook, for example, but maybe LinkedIn is not an area that you feel comfortable posting. It is a professional environment, so treat it that way. And just remember, anytime you put content out there, it's going to get you visible, it's going to build your credibility, and it's going to help you stay top of mind. So content is king when it comes to, getting you visible on these platforms, but it also needs to connect with the people that you're targeting. What you don't want to do is put content out there that is different to the types of roles that you're interested in. I would use your LinkedIn network to ask for help. Given your current situation, I would literally be asking as many people as possible for help. I'd be posting about your journey. I'd be using content to get visibility on your situation, and I would really be literally asking for help using your network. To help you, I've got 100 content ideas that will help you. It says for salespeople, but they can be used for lots of different individuals. So they won't all be relevant for a job seeker, but there'll certainly probably be 60 ideas in there of content that you could share. If you just go to pipeline44.com/content-ideas, we'll put the link into the comments in both the Facebook group for Coaches for Ukraine, as well as putting it into the YouTube comments as well. So content's really important, but one strategy that you can use if you're not comfortable posting content is this thing called engagement. And this is quite an overlooked step, but it's really easy to do in just a few minutes a day. And this is where you're interacting with the newsfeed and you are liking, reacting, commenting, etc. on other people's content. So it's a great way to get visible with lots of people at speed without spending a huge amount of time. So why is engagement important? Well, it's about creating conversations, because when you get visible through engagement, you never know who you're going to meet. You never know where that connection is going to take you. And quite often it can lead into a conversation in your inbox, off of the newsfeed, and turn into a budding relationship. So it's really important that you think about engagement and spend some time each day on engaging with the newsfeed. What you don't want to be is a lurker. So you don't want to be a LinkedIn lurker, which is somebody that has a profile, just watches the newsfeed, but never interacts with the newsfeed. So commenting will drive discussion. You can start conversations, which leads to conversations in your inbox. And ultimately, LinkedIn is all about building great relationships. So here's an example of, I mean, you don't have to post like this, but this is an example of an interaction underneath a post where Nicholas Jones, who's our CEO of the Pipeline 44 group, shared some insights on a post that had been posted by Bryony. And again, there was an interaction that happened underneath. Now, when you like and comment on someone else's post, everybody that's already liked and commented on those posts will be notified that you have done that too. So it's a great way to get visible without spending a lot of time on content. I always use questions when I'm commenting on other people's posts. I like to drive discussion. And when you ask a great question, you generally tend to find the conversation continues. So before I leave you all, I thought I'd just share some CV tips with you, because though we've kind of finished the LinkedIn element of the job seeking side of things, but I was talking to a friend of mine, a lady called Judith. And Judith, if you're not connected to her on LinkedIn, I recommend you go seek her out. So take a photo of Judith's profile. She is a CV writer and she helps people with career transitions. And she's also, she helps people with their LinkedIn profiles, things like that. So Judith and I know each other quite well. And I asked her last week for some help on what's current in terms of job seeking profiles and CVs, not for LinkedIn, but specifically for the CV side of things. So she very kindly gave me some top tips from a CV perspective, because it's a while since I've been in the recruitment game. So the first tip she said is to make sure that all of your key information is captured on page 1 of your CV, because the chances are that a lot of people won't even bother turning to the second page. So there's no point in having all your best things on page 2 when it might not ever be seen. Remember, 5 to 7 seconds spent on a CV on average. So you need to include your skills, your experience, your knowledge, different sectors you've worked in, etc. So they're really important that you get everything you can onto page 1. Another tip she gave me was to use clear headings on your CV. So this is about guiding the reader, depending on what level you're at and what kind of responsibility you've had, but different kind of headings. So you'd head things up and then put bullet points underneath. So just make it really clear what you bring to the table and the kind of skills that you have. Another tip would be to include examples of specific achievement. So tangible things. So if you think about a company, they're looking for people that can help them to either make money, save money, or become more efficient, or ideally all three. So if you've got tangible results of having saved a company money, made a process or a company more efficient, or helped a company to make money, that's the more evidence you can show on your CV of that, the better. So that might mean showing them numbers, percentages, euros, etc. So think about the way in which you can demonstrate how you personally made an impact in your previous roles. Another thing is to really kind of bring out your personality. So the companies that are hiring and the recruiters that are hiring are looking for a really good cultural fit. So we hire on culture and how that person is going to fit with our existing team and our organization, because skills can always be trained. So it's far more important for a company to bring somebody in that has the right attitude, the right beliefs, and the right culture. So whether you're in an operational role or in a senior role, mention things that you can specifically say that are things about your personality traits. And these are the things that are going to set you apart from other candidates. So think about things like, learning skills really quickly and giving examples, working well in a team, enjoying taking on responsibility, things around being flexible. So again, use the life page on LinkedIn to find out what values and what how the culture is at that company and demonstrate that through your CV. And a couple more, but this one is quite a key one. A lot of recruitment companies and large organizations use something called an ATS system. This is an applicant tracking system, which means they're using robots to screen CVs before a human eye sees them. So it's really important that your CV has the right search terms, SEO, keywords, and phrases on it so that you get put through from the screening stage in front of a real human being. So have a look at some job adverts in your industry, look at what terms are used most often in your type of work, and make sure that they're on your CV. And most of these systems, they don't like fancy CVs. They don't like fancy boxes and different fancy bullet points and fonts and things like that. Use standard layout and very simple and non-fussy when it comes to your CV so that you get screened and you don't get your CV kicked out because the system couldn't read it. And the last one for me, and this is not from Judith, this one's for me, is to follow instructions in the job advert. Many companies will use this as part of the test as to whether or not you're able to follow instructions. So we have a very specific instruction in our job advert that says to write a very personalized cover letter, clearly stating why you believe you're the right person for us in this particular role. If someone doesn't follow that instruction, they don't get through to the next stage of the interview process. Once we have got people through, we then ask them to complete a short 60-second video answering a question. Again, if a candidate doesn't do the 60-second video or refuses to do the 60-second video, they don't pass through to the next step. So it demonstrates a lot about somebody's character, and it demonstrates a lot about their willingness to follow a process. And we need people that can follow a process. So if there are specific instructions in the job advert, make sure that you follow them. So I'm pretty much done now, Extine, with my main content. I'd like people to maybe share in the comments their kind of actions and takeaways that they're going to take. And I'm happy to take any questions that have come from either the Facebook community or the YouTube live stream. So happy to do that. So Extine, if you're there and we have any questions, it would be great to see what we can help people with. I think he's coming back. Hopefully, I know he's having a bit of a technical challenge today, Extine. So hopefully he's there anyway. There he is. Hopefully,
it's like having a disco here, clicking like mad and nothing's happening. You know, it's like I hate it. I hate it when I feel sort of like ineffective and I'm just clicking in the computer.
It's okay. We can hear you. We can't see you, so we're all good.
We'll get that sorted as well. The joys of technology.
Indeed.
Anyway, so yeah, we don't have any questions right now, but is there any, let's think about a little bit back about what we had before. I recently spoke to someone that is looking for a job, and he, as you said, there's a gap in their CV. What do you think people can do? How is it best to explain the gap in your CV? For instance, there's a lot of people that are moving countries. So, for instance, we have people coming to the country now, like the Ukrainians. And then,
yeah, of course.
There's a while you're not going to be working. Okay, so if you're a refugee, that's relatively easy to explain.
Yeah.
But what if you were a house hubby for a while, or you were a stay-at-home dad? You know, if you did some volunteer work, would that help to bridge the gap as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point and something everyone always worries about. So I think any employer that doesn't understand that people have a life is probably not a company you want to be working for anyway. So career gaps are perfectly explainable. You're actually better to explain them than to not explain them and for somebody to be questioning, well, why were they not working between here and here? So it's okay if you took a career break to look after your child. It's okay if you took some time out to travel, or you took some time out for your mental health. Like, these are all perfectly acceptable things, and you're better, in my opinion, to actually explain them on your CV and on your LinkedIn profile. And I'm delighted that LinkedIn has put that as a choice when you're filling out your work experience to say career break. So obviously everyone listening here, it's very explainable why you are now looking for a new position. And even if it takes you a few months to find something, that gap is very explainable. So I'd be encouraging people to actually explain those gaps. And you may get asked about them at interview, but it's better to have them than to not, in my opinion.
Okay. Then the other thing is, if you're, we talked about this pronunciation of your name. I think it's also a great thing, but I've also seen that people put all these little circles around their name, sort of like available. Where do you switch that on?
So I did show that in the presentation, but you can put a frame around if you're open to work or if you're hiring. So what you want to look for is the people with a purple or pink frame that are saying that they're hiring because they actually have a job advertised on their LinkedIn profile. And the ones that where it's open to work, the green one, you just literally go in and edit your profile photo and then click over to where it says frames, and then you can change it to say that you're open to work. So that's where you would do that. But yeah, I would recommend doing that so that you're letting your network know that you're looking for an opportunity.
Okay. Then coming to Netherlands, UK, wherever, when you want to do an interview, for instance, are employers okay with just doing it on the phone, or do you have to have a video link if you can't necessarily get to the office?
I think it really depends on each organization. I mean, every company is different. You know, some companies the offices are open, some of them are not, some of them are doing them online. You know, so it really depends on the individual company, but obviously circumstances might not allow you to be able to do a video call, etc. So I would just, you know, and again, a company needs to be empathetic to that, especially in the current situation that many people watching this will find themselves in. So I think as long as you're able to be available, that you can explain why you need, and just ask people for help. Like that's the other thing. There will be people around you, especially in this community, especially in this group. If you need to find a way to get to an online video or get to something, then there will be people around you that can help as well. So wherever possible, try and comply with what they're asking you to do, because that will go against you in the interview process, you know. But I really think that, you know, just asking for help and being vulnerable and asking your network and getting connected with local people to make sure in your new community that you can actually make that happen.
I think it's something that I learned when I moved to the Netherlands, because I mean, you lived here and you moved back to UK, and I lived in South Africa and I moved here as well. People are very helpful when you ask for help.
Yes.
But it is really difficult sometimes for us to ask for help, because if you're
Yes.
used to being independent, you're used to doing your own thing, you're used to not having to depend on anyone.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden you have to depend on someone else for almost everything.
Yes.
It feels very, very dehumanizing.
Yeah.
But I think when we just take that step and reach out, we'll know that there's a lot more help out there than we might have thought possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think the initiative for Coaches for Ukraine is so, you know, so useful, because there are lots of people that are willing to help and, you know, use the resources, use the group, you know, interact in the Facebook community, you know, reach out to the guys that are heading up this, because, you know, if they can't help you, they'll probably know someone that can. So, you know, just get vulnerable and ask, because there will be plenty of people that will be willing to help you for sure.
Yeah. The work experience gap thing that you talked about, is there a specific place that you need to go? Because I think
so on the work
missed precisely where.
Yeah, so on the work experience section, when you go into your profile where you're uploading your recent positions, when you click in there is an option to add a career break. So you can either add a position or you can add a career break. So it's really easy to find, and it's just one of the options when you're uploading your work experience. So yeah.
All right. So I'm going to just say thank you so much for joining us today and being here and being willing to help us out yet again. And
You are more than welcome.
Begging you to help us with more sessions like this. And again, have a lovely day, and thank you so much. And thank you for everybody for listening, and share, and let's see how many people we can actually help with this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Extine, and thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you again soon.